Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome, Youngstown's Talk channel. Those of you watching, listening, if you want to call the program, 330-595-1600. What's going on with Kelin today?
Oh, you ever have one of those mornings where you're like, I'm not going to let a bad morning become a bad day.
That's today?
It's just going to, I refuse. I'm not going to let a bad morning become a bad day. Can only go up, right?
All right. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
I did see. So we were talking the other day, and this is just going to be a quick topic, but we were talking the other day, about like birds and talking to animals and stuff. Guess what I saw this morning?
What?
I saw this hawk with a huge animal in its talons, like flew right over. I don't know if it was like a big mouse or something, or I don't know. And I felt so bad for that little animal.
Why?
People are gonna say, "Oh, the hawk has to eat too," but I don't know. Cute little animal, scary looking hawk. I guess I just sympathize with the little animal.
It's that emotional side.
Yeah.
Like if there was a mouse that was attacking a hawk, you wouldn't feel bad for the hawk, right? No, just because it's a cute little furry prey item.
And then I thought, oh, Kelin, you thought you were having a bad morning. No, that mouse
in
is having
comparison,
a worse morning.
right.
So I was like,
so do you think, like, going down through the hierarchy of animals with consciousness and a brain, do you think as you kind of get lower that there isn't really a presence of self, and like getting eaten isn't as traumatic as it would be if a human was being eaten?
I hope that's the case, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've watched, a zebra getting, chomped down on by a predator cat, and he's alive and kicking, but he's being eaten at the same time. And you're thinking, like, you almost project into that animal, thinking like that would be just terrible to be eaten and not being able to escape.
Yeah.
Not interested in killing you and putting you out of your misery. You're just getting munched on.
But I've also seen, like, I don't know if it was Animal Planet or something one time. On one of the episodes, there was this wolf, like, after a baby elk or something. And it was like screeching and crying and running, like it was in distress and scared. So clearly there's some sort of knowing that something is dangerous or deadly or something or scary. So I'm like, oh, I felt bad. But maybe that little mouse didn't know and was just like, yay, oh, I'm dead.
And so, okay, there was a news item where a guy that murdered 3 people, he was executed by firing squad. And you had 3 people. One of the persons, I'm assuming, did not have a bullet in the gun. And they told them this knowing that they can go on thinking that they weren't the shot that killed the person. But the other 2 people missed the heart. And so the guy was shot and in the liver and some other thing. And he was alive for a couple of minutes after the execution. Now, this is a murderer, right? Yeah. So did the murderer, do you feel for the guy that he suffered at his execution, or should he suffer more?
Well, my first reaction is I feel for the guy that thinks he had the shot that killed him. I feel bad for that guy.
Okay.
And his mental health. I don't know if I think the guy should suffer more, the murderer. I probably don't feel quite as bad as I do for the guy that shot him.
Oh, you feel bad for the guy that shot? Well, there are 3 guys. So
the guy who thought that had to have been my bullet.
Well, they don't know because one of them has a blank and they don't know which of them have a blank.
And they don't know where they were aiming. Like
they do.
Heart,
well, yeah, no, there was a little target right over the guy's heart. And so they were aiming for the target and they just happened to miss. But they don't know if
maybe they don't know if they missed.
Yeah, they don't. Well, they know if they had the bullet, they know they missed, but they don't know if they had the bullet or the blank. Okay. So you can kind of escape saying, well, I would have hit him, but I was for sure had the blank kind of thing. Yeah. But anyway, back to the human being, sentenced to death by firing squad. Firing squad took 2 minutes to die. I mean, we're talking about the process of knowing you're going to die, and human beings put ourselves in that situation all the time where we grapple with our mortality and think that's gonna, how am I gonna die, and it's gonna be terrible, and I'm just not gonna be here anymore, and is it gonna be painful, and is it gonna be torture, that kind of thing.
Yes. Morning's just getting better, isn't it?
Well, you brought it up with your freaking mouth thing.
I know. Oh, kind of like the firing squad is saying, I don't think I had the bullet. I'm going to pretend that the little animal didn't know he was about to die and wasn't scared.
Right. And that pursuit, we don't like to think of causing death. Well, I mean, maybe we do. I mean, as abortion is happening, I mean, we don't really care much about death, right? Wars are going on. We don't care much about death. But sometimes when we personalize it, then we absolutely put ourselves in the situation where pain can be experienced. And
like if it's removed far enough, then you're like, oh yeah, go ahead, have somebody go and take care of them. But it's like, no, you go and do it. Then it's
So if I say guy killed 3 people and he was put to death, part of your brain says make it more painful because the guy totally deserved it. Then you're thinking, like, situation aside, if you're sitting in a chair with a hood over your head, knowing that there are 3 people that are just about to take aim at you, and now you get to experience knowing that you're about to die, regardless of what you did prior to that moment, even if you, like, in your brain, you're like, I promise I'll never do it again, spare me, and the torture that knowing you're about to die has to do to you.
Yeah. Denise says, how long did it take his victim to die? That is all we should care about.
Yeah, that in your brain, you're like, okay, well, justice means that you get exactly what you gave. So let's look at your victims and what you did to them and let you experience what they did. But there's another side to this. And these kind of executions do 2 things. Number 1, they serve justice. And number 2, they maybe talk somebody out of doing it that may be contemplating it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so the marketing that has to go down should be to dissuade somebody in the future from doing what this person did. And if we minimize it and make it non-painful, it's almost like we're medicalizing, we're serving the get him out of society part, but we're not using it to make the next guy think differently by painting the picture that you never want to do this because this is what we're going to do to you.
Do you ever wonder, though? Sometimes I wonder if the death penalty is the easy route for them. Like, part of me is like, oh yeah, they took someone's life, we should take theirs. Why are we going to spend a bunch of the taxpayer money to keep this monster alive? And then sometimes I'm like, but is that them then getting off easily? Or should they live out their days in a miserable situation? Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, he's going to be abused in prison. Well, good. Like, it's not a good thing to be put to death by any means. And I'm sure that could be terrifying, but it's also something that's done with in a matter of minutes and he's done. Whereas
do you believe
I want him to continue?
That people that serve penalties are always guilty? We have a perfect record.
Well, that's another point, is if we put someone to death, I need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have the right person. I would have. Do you know
how many people have been exonerated from death row, having current technology that said they didn't do it? So if we're so eager to send someone to their death, I'm with you. We got to be absolutely sure. And I don't trust the justice system to not frame somebody up and their life be taken, and we weren't as sure as we needed to be.
So in a case like that Luigi guy who killed the CEO, or maybe the kid who killed the other, you would be like, both of them deserve the death penalty.
Yeah, right now. And not even on appeals or long process. Like, he did it. We see him. Like, your argument is that you? Yes, no. Did you do that? Yes, no. Boom. End of story.
What about in the case that it was somebody killed someone else and they were found to be mentally unwell?
Yeah. Then you go to a mentally unwell home where you're treated for your conditions. You don't get to be not guilty.
Yeah.
Right. You still did the thing.
Do you still sort of want them to suffer a little bit, though, if they did it and they're mentally unwell? Do you still I don't want you, though, to have a free pass?
Well, if they are broken to a point where they did that, then they just need to be medicalized and kept from society. Like, I think they should bring the mental institutions back and have way more people in mental institutions than prisons, because I think a lot of our problems are mental issues instead of criminal issues.
But I feel like, too, to an extent, like, you've got to be a little unwell to do anything.
Right.
Like
That's what
that.
I'm saying. Do we have the science to be able to make people mentally healthy, or at least institutionalize them so we don't have to walk down the street and get, poop thrown at us, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Those people need to be in a place where they're not suited to be among us.
Like, when you hear about mass murderers, like famous serial killers, like, I don't know, Dahmer and people like that, why were they not put to death?
Exactly.
Is it because somebody said they're psychotic, they're unwell?
Our justice system is so effed up. Like, I don't have faith in it because
you would have to be to do all that.
Right. So it is all effed up, and I don't think we have any real problem solvers that are interested in solving it.
Yeah.
Too much money to be made in, showcasing it and profiting from, people going into prison. So it's all effed up. I don't trust anything.
Like, how about that case? What's her name? Gypsy Blanchard, Gypsy. You know who I'm talking about? She recently got out of prison. She killed her mother.
Mm-hmm.
She did. She admitted it. It's clear. It's a fact. She murdered her mother. The defense is out of a crazy state of mind because her mother was manipulating her and keeping her ill. And basically, I can't think of the term for it, that where, they're purposely keeping their child sick for attention. And apparently Gypsy snapped and killed her because she wasted a good chunk of her life. Well, she's now out of prison. And they're like, served your time, you're free to go. How do you feel about a case like that?
Well, it's because of you that happens. You go through a school zone. It should be a ticket. You argue your way that you don't get the penalty. And then all of a sudden murderers are doing the same thing, emotionalizing and taking consideration that she was out of her head. So it's your fault.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
An accidental speeding situation,
yes,
of which I did not know.
No,
it's the same as premeditated murder.
An excuse garnered let off is an excuse garnered let off.
Yesterday you said it was it was logical information.
It is logical information. Okay, so if you're running through the school zone,
premeditated.
I know, but
premeditated.
So in this case, if you would have
Munchausen syndrome. Thank you, Patricia.
If you would have run over a kid while you're speeding through a zone, right? Would your unfamiliarity, or it was this time of dark, or I was having a bad day, should that come into the argument at all? Right? Did you do it on purpose? No. But that's what I'm saying. I tied the two together.
But that's manslaughter versus murder one. Not even murder two, but premeditated.
The AI would say, did you take a life? And what's the penalty for taking a life? Right?
Listen, I'm not saying that instance would be without penalty or without a consequence, but it would not be the same as murdering someone.
So if you premeditate a murder, no matter the reason, we kill you. Right?
I don't know. Apparently not.
Well, we should. We should.
Because we don't.
Regardless, or if you are a crazy person, you are no longer suited to be in regular life. You can't go do a job because you're still a crazy person and you could do it again. So either you get put to death and get taken off of the board, or you get placed in something where there's nothing but cinder blocks and reprogramming, maybe lobotomizing, maybe strapping you to a gurney for the rest of your existence. I would choose the death part than that experience, but it's not, if you can make the argument that you didn't intend as a real human being to kill somebody, then maybe you go to the not real human being and get stowed away in a box somewhere.
Yeah. And to me, it's pretty much the same. I feel like you'd have to be a little crazy to brutally murder someone, especially more than once. Carter says, what about O.J. Simpson? He did it and got away with it. Jury dismissed all the evidence because of race.
Yeah, because it's a joke. The justice system is a joke. That means that there are people are there that shouldn't be, and there are people that should be that aren't there. And as long as you have that dynamic where we have lawyers will argue that it's a good system, but it's not a perfect system. And when it comes to life and it comes to justice, we have no bead on it. Depending on if we like the political situation, then we're a little blind to, what justice should even look like. For you and I, if it went to AI, it would be absolute. We don't care who the person is. We're going to argue for truth and justice, and that's it. We're not going to try to get someone who's guilty with a lighter sentence. We're going to try to line up the justice with the crime. End of story.
So OJ memories are kind of coming back. Now, I was in 6th grade when the OJ verdict was read. So I was a kid. I don't remember a whole lot about it. But what about like in the instance where like the glove didn't fit or something like that? Like if there is even a shred of doubt, are you in agreement then? Like, I think death penalty should be tied to 100% certainty. If you can't, if you're not 100% certain, then it's life in prison. And that should be the standard. So you could be like, there is reasonable doubt that he didn't kill her, but not enough to keep you out of prison. You're going to prison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that should be the level. If you're certain you can take a life, because that's the justice. But if there's a chance that you didn't, but there's still enough evidence to convict you, then it's life in prison.
Do you think, though, they can continue to fight or appeal while in prison?
If there's exonerating evidence. Yeah, that's why we're keeping you alive, because if there's a shred that you really didn't do it, then keep churning on it until you'll
be removed in the meantime.
Exactly. But society. We can't unkill you, right?
Yeah.
So that you can prove your innocence.
So like Casey Anthony, would you be like, hey, there's enough here that you will be removed from society. You want to continue to fight this? Go ahead. But
exactly,
we can't. Maybe we're not going to put you to death, but we're also not going to let you just freely.
Yeah. If the probability is over 90% that you did it, then there's more work to be done on your part, but we can't have you living next to grandma where if you did it, then you might do it again.
Yeah. Carter says his DNA was all over the place. Wasn't it in their home?
Where they killed? That was a cluster.
So wouldn't his DNA be all over the place?
Yes. And Derek Chauvin's another one. That'll be making the news here pretty soon. That was what sparked off the George Floyd riots and the BLM stuff. A dude who died from a drug overdose somehow got connected in that it was a racial thing of some kind.
He died from being
the dude is in prison, and it is a total farce of why he's there. Yes, there was a life lost, and police procedure was followed, and it wasn't a targeted attack. It was a guy doing his job. So the penalty for like you driving through the school zone and you didn't try to take a life, but a life was lost. Yes, everybody who's negligent and a life is gone, there should be a penalty for it, but it should be universally applied. So there's going to probably be a pardon for Derek Chauvin. All right. And he can be pardoned on the federal level, but he's still got state crime. So he's not getting out of prison, but it might be lessened. He might have some appeals that are available to him, but he was railroaded because of the racial stuff that was going on at the time. So that's why the pardon's going to happen. But as soon as the pardon happens, then we're going to have this racial thing that's going to spark up again, and it's going to be that all over. So let's just say you're in the positions of power and you know the right thing needs to be done by the pardon, but you know the consequence is that you are going to serve the rest of your administration's term with racial strife and maybe riots again. Do you do the right thing even with the consequence, or you're like, he's already in prison and there aren't too many people, chanting to get him out of prison, so let's just kind of let it in. I'm not going to say innocent. Let's let somebody who's been over punished to just stick with that unjust punishment.
Do I go for the unrest for what I feel is right?
Yep.
Or, hey, there's not unrest, so just leave this alone.
Exactly. And then when you're sitting there, you're like, what the F? I'm martyring myself because you won't do the right thing?
Yeah, I would. If I truly thought that it was the right thing, I would do it, because I think you're going to have the unrest regardless.
Right.
If the unrest is from people that are being irrational anyways, they're going to do it anyways. So you might as well just do what's right.
Yeah. So if our system has even the ability to over penalize someone, then it's completely arbitrary. And then that example of having people who should be in jail that aren't and are in jail that shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, you can't trust the whole thing. You can't start taking lives when it's an arbitrary system.
Yeah, and this is sort of, it leads us into that whole like boy who cried wolf situation that we talk about a lot, where it makes it so that it's now harder to get justice for a situation that really is racially biased or really is excessive force. I remember when this was in the news, it was coming up a lot, this idea that cops might use excessive force. And I saw a couple of videos that truly were a cop using excessive force. Like, dude, you were totally out of line there. That guy's hands were up. He was on the ground. He was saying, please don't, whatever. He was unarmed. You had the wrong guy, all kinds of stuff. And that just goes by the wayside. It just gets ignored. It gets swept under the rug and they go scot-free because the instances in which that was not the case became so loud and overbearing. So it's hurting your own cause to get up in arms and riot and cause violence and scream about something that did not happen.
It ruins the whole thing. And people like me who just want fairness and we want actual equality, we want justice, we're not getting that anywhere. Because if you can tip the scales in one direction, you know somebody's tipping it in the other direction and you can't have faith in it.
Yeah.
And it's not me that's undermining it. The observation that it's an unfair system is not me undermining. It's the people who are weighting the scales that are undermining it.
Because they have an agenda to push and they can.
It's a whole corrupt system.
Yeah. Carter says, eyewitness saw his Bronco leaving a scene and murder at Nicole's house entryway with Ron Goldman. Yeah, OJ should have been in prison, I think, at the very least.
Yeah. But that was
Didn't he eventually go for something else?
I think he like stole some memorabilia or something stupid.
It was like a dumber crime, but he did serve time, but not, I'm sure, like he
not
would
for
have.
murdering two people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he got off a little light.
Yeah, he did.
How did we get talking about murder? Like you just
Because
a hawk and a bird.
hawk stealing a little animal.
And we made our way to OJ Simpson.
Yes, because I wasn't traumatized enough by the animal kingdom. I had to make it real and talk about mass horrific murder. And now I'm being compared to Gypsy Blanchard or whatever her name is.
Great job. You're just
Seriously. What else awful and traumatizing can we?
I had a dream last night. You want to hear about my dream?
Yeah,
I went to bed thinking about a topic, and then I had a dream about the topic, and it was freaking amazing. And I know when I say the dream, it's not going to be as amazing as I think it is. I'm going to tell you about it anyway.
Okay.
So I was thinking about, how we fix the truth deal. Like everybody's just allowed to lie about everything. Everybody's allowed to throw predictions out there, and there's really ever no consequence. So how do you fix that without breaking other things? And so in my brain, it's a dumb idea, but I don't care. I want to talk about it. So everybody, I think there should be a cost when you're wrong about something, right? And almost like think social credit score, where you're being judged based on your actions, and the higher your score means that you're right a lot, and a lower score means that you're really wrong. So like I could look at you and my little heads up display will tell me how correct you are on a usual basis. And if you aren't correct a whole lot, then I look at your number, it's like 100, and I'm like, I'm not listening to you.
Like even if you have good data for thinking the way you did, you were still wrong.
You're not a good source. I'm not listening to you. So let's just say we gave everybody 10,000 points, like when they're born, and everybody right now just gets 10,000 points. And every time that you say something that ends up not being true, you have 100 points leaves your account. And if you're right, or it was a truthful thing, right?
Yeah.
Then you double that. You get twice the amount. So you're betting on whether or not you're telling the truth or not. And when you're wrong, that leaves your account and it's just gone. So you go down in value. Like if I said and the second part of this is you can't make any dance around statements.
That was going to be my thing, is what about the malinformation where it's true depending on the context? It did happen. It was.
Well, you're not allowed to make those dancers anymore.
Okay, so you have something ingrained that makes it clear.
Yeah, you're not allowed to make any kind of like obfuscated or mysterious type of predictions. You have to say something like, I think the global temperature will have no icebergs in the Arctic, right? By this date. Because the system will say, what is it, by when, how it is, or you're not even allowed to say it. So you're allowed to say anything you want, but you got to, if you have an opinion, it's got to be carried with enough weight that the system can judge whether or not you told a lie or you didn't. So if I said Donald Trump is taking money out of Medicaid and he's going to take it out in this budget, right? And then you write it down, and then you can actually check to see if that was accurate or not. So if you don't have enough data, then you can't make the statement, and then you're shut off. You're muted. Nobody will even listen to you.
Did you come up with this idea after watching the RFK Senate hearing by chance?
No, okay. I did not.
Go on.
Yeah.
Because, that's.
But anyway, then we would have access to see if people are really good at saying things. And if they're really not good, then you don't have to listen to them, and they're being regulated by a score. And I at one point, I was really down on the social credit score, but I might be a big fan of it now because of how loose we are with standards and how much credit and credibility we give to people that don't really deserve it. And we need to know how good people are at being smart, at being right, at predicting things in the future.
So then does everybody have to basically be straightforward? There can't be any sarcasm.
Well, no. It would have to be categorized right. If you're saying something that
a joking manner.
Exactly.
It's got to know that.
You'll have a satire tag.
Okay.
Where if you're just being jokey, then it doesn't count against you. But if you're being meant to be taken serious, I have to know whether or not this is a jokey statement, and then I can laugh along with you. But you can't substitute in, I was just joking, because you have to categorize what you're going to say.
We need to know. This machine has to show intent.
Exactly. That is it. And we kind of dance around whether or not we were being serious or not serious, or telling the truth or not telling it, doing it for dramatic effect or not. And then we just need to know whatever it is. Proper categorization is going to be necessary.
So you had a dream about this?
I did. My imagination put this in the real life, and it was freaking awesome. It was.
Did it seem to work?
It did.
Who was in the dream?
Well, it was random people, but it was it wasn't any real.
You weren't listening to a politician on TV or the news
a fiction, fictitious politician, but still, it was great to see this little bubble appear over their head in my heads-up display, and it was the bullshit meter was red, and it was awesome to know, I'm not going to listen to this joker.
You're just the show.
Was the best.
You ever watch Poker Face?
No.
Oh, you would like that.
Okay.
I think. So it's on what is it? Netflix maybe? What's Poker Face on? People know. Peacock? I don't know. And it's a girl, and she has the ability, she just, for whatever reason, she's like, I can't explain. I just know when someone's lying. I just know. And they could say anything to her, and she's like, bullshit. And she always calls bullshit because she knows they're lying, regardless of what comes out of their mouth. And so she's sort of, she wasn't originally law enforcement or a crime fighter, but she falls into these situations that she ends up because she can tell that people are lying in certain situations. And that's what you need one of those little meters that you just know if someone's lying.
And so somebody walks up to a judge and says that they didn't do something, and their credibility meter is at 0, then they get the death penalty. It makes so many other things easier.
And if you're watching the news and you're being reported information, and if you see the people reporting it, low cred, you're like,
exactly.
And turn that off.
And you have a setting that you automatically mute people below a certain standard. So if you want to just discount all of the liars and the untruth tellers, just mute, auto mute. It was freaking amazing.
I started that with Facebook. There's an unfollow button where you're like, okay, we'll still be friends, but I don't ever want to see another piece of drivel that comes out of your computer screen. Unmute.
So I hope we institute some kind of social credit score, and we do it for all of the things that we need most, which is truth telling.
Do you think we have the capability to have some sort of AI that does this?
Well, I think it's more likely that through like Neuralink, rather than just having an aggregate of things that you've done to be able to predict the future, that will just have a probe on your brain that when you're lying, it just puts up a little red flag so that everybody just knows and nobody could tell a lie anymore.
I wonder too, if we're just sort of naturally evolving as humans into this mindset that we are more and more distrusting everything.
Because everybody freaking lies.
Yeah.
So it's,
and everybody has malinformation and everybody has an agenda.
all that stuff will go away. If you could just tell if someone was telling the truth or not, like it would all go away. You wouldn't have misinformation.
I mean, we see it all the time now. If anybody sends me something they saw in the news, I immediately go, well, let's see if that's true or not. Even though it came from a news source, I still will say, no, I'm going to need to look into that more.
So
I don't believe anything anymore.
Anthony Fauci comes out in front of you and is at the podium, right?
Yeah.
And he says, if you take this vaccine, you will not get COVID. And then the little red light goes on.
Is that how he talks?
Yeah. And then the media can say, well, your lie detector just went off. So obviously there's something in that. Why do you think that the lie detector went off? What about that was untruthful? And then when they say when they dig in, you can see what part they were lying about. Right. And so the media's job will be different, is a kind of what's that, dissecting the phrases to find out what part was the actual lie.
Yeah,
it would be greatness.
It may even be hard to prove that it's a flat out lie, but like even when you're hooked up to like a polygraph, they call it deception. You know, like, hey, was that a lie? Well, we're seeing indications of possible deception, meaning they meant it a different way, maybe. And so we could be like, hey, your little meter.
And that would be like on the aggregate, where you can ask a series of questions and profile what in your biological responses is deceptive behavior with the credibility score that we have and the Neuralink I just lied meter. And with those three things, you will always get truth.
Oh, this would make Senate hearings so much better.
Wouldn't it be beautiful?
Oh,
Wouldn't it be beautiful?
God. I saw another one yesterday. RFK was talking to the Senate. He had to answer questions and account for stuff. And those things are so pointless. All it is whoever's in the hot seat, whether it's RFK Jr., whether it's Tulsi, whether it's a Democrat, anybody, you're just there to listen to the other side's opinion.
Or they lecture you instead of asking questions.
You don't actually get to answer. They act like they're asking you a question, but you don't actually get to answer. And then the party of the side you're on will then give their time so that you can try to defend yourself. And that's all this is. And it's like, this is so dumb. But what I did enjoy seeing is some pushback where RFK, because he's confirmed now, I think he's got a little bit more weight behind him, flat out tried to shut him down. Like, no, what you just said is a lie. That's not true. I'm not going to answer this because I know what you're doing. And it was just like, get him. And so that would be so great if you could see the intent or what they were actually insinuating when they were questioning. Because I watch those, because even if I go into those already liking someone, I do already like RFK. But if he is ever doing something shady, I want to know. Like, I'm not going to just blindly follow you. If I am wrong and there's something here, I want you to account for everything. I want to hear these questions. I want to hear your answers. I want you to be accountable. And so when you either, one, don't give him a chance to speak so that he can't answer anything, that does nothing. Or two, he says that what you're saying is false and I can explain, and then you cut him off. It's like, all right, who looks bad now? Not him. You do. You know, yeah, I wish we had that.
Yeah. And you know, those halls are made up of really dumb people. But I mean, the problem is you have representatives. So they are representing other dumb people. So when you get a room full of dumb people and they're just playing a game where they're trying to make as much money for themselves as possible, that's what you get.
They are so clearly on a team. Like, the ones that are pushing are so clearly stretching things to make it look bad. And then the other side is so clearly padding everything and throwing him sort of lobs, knowing that he could use that to look good, and they're helping him. None of it feels like they're authentically trying to get to the bottom of something. None of them feel like they're actually trying to get good quality answers. It's either you're pushing because you're against or you're helping because you're for. And that's really all this is. It's a freaking tennis match in a room that nothing actually ever gets accomplished. And that's so dumb.
If this is going to be your summary of these and you keep watching them,
I
and you
know.
keep saying the same thing.
Because I keep thinking, ooh, let me make sure I have adequate information from the mouth of the person involved. Let me make sure that I can still agree with these values and I know what's happening. And you get nothing. You get nothing because they don't actually let the person speak or explain or answer or anything. Krista says, that's the whole point of those Senate hearings. It's not a job interview. It's to showcase things that are contrary to what's required for the position and could jeopardize the candidate's ability to do the job.
Well, I think that hearing, I don't think, I think in most cases when they're doing confirmation hearings, that's the deal. But yesterday's, this is where they bring the department heads and are grilled by the legislature, and they can ask whatever they want from it. So how's the job going? What you're doing? What you're whatever. And so if you're a critic of that person, this is your time to hit them with everything, to get them to respond to questions that you have. And like you said, there's not any real questions in there. You're lecturing the person and what they should do different. And then they just get to respond not by answering any kind of question because there wasn't one asked.
And even if in your question you say something that's not true, he can't talk. He can't be like, no, that's not true.
I reclaim my time.
Yeah, that's not, I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time. I did not.
Minimum time. I'm reclaiming it.
And then they're like, my favorite was, will you look at the camera and tell the American public that the measles vaccine is safe and they should take it? And he's just like, that's not my job. My job is to give information, is to make sure that there's data out there, is to give people, but will you do it? Yes or no? Will you do it? Yes or no? Will you do it? Yes or no? He's like, I'm telling you what is required of me. That's not something I have to do. No, because it sounds to me like you won't just look at it and tell the American people yes or no. And he's like trying to talk and they're just giving this dumb talking point. So finally they stop and they're like, all right, I guess let's just mark it that you won't answer the question then. And so then the very next guy was a Republican on his side. And he's like, Senator Kennedy, I'm going to go ahead and let you speak. Like, no question. And he's just like, as I was saying, is that I don't have to do that. That's not a requirement of my job. It's not on me to push someone to do anything or not. But if you check the transcripts from my meeting this morning, I did flat out say, I think it's safe and you should get it. Look it up. And I'm just like, Rufio. Sorry, that's a Hook reference.
Okay. What else do you want to talk about? Food, politics is off. We did politics. I'm all politicked out.
Food, politics,
entertainment, music.
I'm having trouble sleeping at night. Maybe you can help me because you know everything.
Okay.
I can't get the freaking temperature right, I think, all night long. And I realize this sounds like a ridiculous problem, but do it often enough and you're just desperate. All night long for maybe the last week or two, it is throw the covers off. I'm so hot. Now I'm freezing, pull them back on. Oh my God, it's so hot. I'm dying. Nope, I'm freezing, put them back on to the point that it's all night, every night. I just want the temperature that is ideal for sleeping so I can stay asleep and not just, oh God, it's hot. Nope, it's cold. No, it's hot. Nope, it's cold. What do I do?
Women out there, what is she experiencing right now? And
yes, here's the thing. I don't know if it's menopause.
I didn't say that one. I did not say it. I didn't say it.
Because to me, it doesn't feel like a hot flash. I've had a hot flash once when I was pregnant with my daughter. And so it is not as intense and as sudden as a hot flash. It feels like the room is actually hot. But then where's the freezing come in? Is it because all of a sudden I'm sweating or something? I don't know. And my husband will say too, no, it is truly hot in here. So it's not just me. So it's like, what do we do? And it'd be one thing if it's like, okay, our bedroom's not getting enough air to it, which it may not be because I'm hot in the morning too. But then why am I suddenly freezing? And oh my God, it's so cold now. I got to have this. Maybe because I got hot.
So I'm going to tell you, go get a blood test and see what's happening, what chemicals are pulsating and moving around in your blood. And you're going to have a deficiency somewhere. And I first would recommend that you fill in whatever deficiency that blood test says comes back until you regulate that. Your body has the ability to regulate itself, and it needs calibrated. And so once you fill that out, make your body normalized in that way, now work on consistency in what you do to your body temperature wise. Okay. And it might be shocking the body with cold plunges and saunas and whatever, but stay consistent on it. Right. And your body will respond, but clean up the blood first.
So, but here's the thing. Okay. So Julie says perimenopause, which I'm wondering, but okay, this might be TMI, but I need the Dr. Internet to help me here. So I had a hysterectomy years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago, 2 years ago and some change. And after that surgery, they did a blood test and said, you are now in menopause, not perimenopause. You're in menopause, surgically induced. Okay. Doc said, just let me know how you feel. We're not going to do anything unless things are unbearable. I've gone 2 years. I've never had a single symptom. No hot flashes, no weight gain, no nothing, no mood swing. Ooh, okay. We're good here. So can you have, number one question, can you get perimenopause symptoms, which is usually what you're in before menopause, if you've already had surgically induced menopause? And
well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you're fluctuating, but you're doing different things to your body. Okay. You're on a health track, right? So you're losing the insulations, you're changing your blood pressure. Everything's different now. Right?
Yeah. And I've heard too, they say when you start lifting weights more, you get hot more easily. And I've been lifting weights more. I've increased my protein intake.
Exactly. You've changed everything. So I'm not surprised as you're nearing, the other chemical things. I'm not
crazy lady stage.
I'm not. But you can balance that out and have your body recalibrate because you're doing all of the right things, but you're throwing yourself off of kilter. So you need to recalibrate how your body reacts and responds.
Or Krista says, we live in Northeast Ohio. Change your thermostat program. When you figure out the best thermostat program for our region, let me know. Yeah, because again, I can walk out of my bedroom and it feels like 10 degrees cooler in the rest of the house. So that tells me our bedroom is not getting sufficient air. It's freaking hot in here. But then why do I also become freezing sometimes? Like, why isn't it just, it's hot, I have to sleep with a fan, I have to sleep without a comforter, I have to sleep with whatever. But then every so often I'm like, oh my God, it's freezing in here. Comforter, everything, I'm cold. And then I wake up like, jeez.
What I do is I'm on the low side. My sleeping temperature is in mid 60s every single night. My body is a lot better at heating up than it is cooling down. So I'd rather it get very practiced at creating its own energy to keep me as warm as it needs to be without putting 536 comforters on. Let your body do it. Thin sheet.
I have a sheet and a thin comforter.
No thin comforter. Kill it. Get rid of the thin comforter or the comforter. Just the sheet.
But I tried that last night.
You're going to be cold.
I only had the sheet and I was like, this is too cold now.
Yes. You're going to, until it recalibrates, you're going to be cold. But your body's going to react and figure out a way to make itself warmer. If your body works the way that everybody else's does, it'll figure out how to make itself warmer.
I'm also wondering if part of it's my husband's fault because he is like a human space heater and he just radiates heat. But again, I've been next to him for 15 years or more. And yes, I've had hot, sweaty nights. And not every time it's like Patricia says, night sweats. That's why you're cold when you take the cover off. And I have absolutely woken up in like a puddle of sweat.
Yeah.
But even if I don't, it's still.
But when you're oscillating between those two, you're telling your body to cool itself off, right? And then you're reacting by changing the dynamics. And now you've got sweat and now you're giving off too much heat. And that's what's killing it. So clean up your blood, set the temperature consistently, and don't do different things. Thin sheet, let your body deal with it and make it happen a lot. Don't keep cycling it.
Okay, so let's say it could possibly be number one, can you have perimenopause symptoms having skipped perimenopause? Is that possible? And number two, could it also be changing things like, so I've been listening to, do you know who Dr. Stacy Sims is by chance? So she is an exercise physiologist and a nutritionist and a professor of all kinds of stuff, women. Like she is like into women fitness and everything. And she explains how women work out differently. Women need different protein. Women need different whatever. By the way, she says women should not cold plunge unless it's a higher temperature than a man does. And women should never fast because of their cortisol levels in the morning. And she knows all kinds of stuff. So I've been listening to her. And so I have added things like, not every night, but a protein shake before bed. And now I'm like, oh, is that too many calories? Because I normally don't eat after dinner, so I don't have excessive calories, but I work out at night. And she says you should have protein within an hour of working out. So now I'm like trying to try that out. So do you think I'm just like,
yes, you're
trying
changing
different
two different things?
and
you need a baseline of consistency. So once 7 o'clock hits, don't do anything. Like get your meals out of the way, get anything that spikes your blood pressure out of the way. So I'm saying clean up your blood, hit some kind of baseline consistency. So then you can start adding and removing, but you have a baseline to work off of.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to just start tracking for a while and be like, baseline, what is this?
Exactly.
What
be
changes
uncomfortable
it?
for a little while, knowing that you're going to be colder than normal or hotter, depending on which way it goes, and find out where you're situated, because I think you're just throwing off your body in too many different deals. But I'm telling you, the supplements and nutrition is probably 80% of it.
And it has been kind of hot and humid out. Part of it could probably be Northeast Ohio and trying to get my room cool.
Our bodies are dynamic. It is geared to make you live no matter what's happening. So there's not anything dangerous happening to you. It's just annoying.
It is annoying
and inconsistent.
It's annoying because I want to sleep and I want to not do the freaking sheets dance all night long.
Yeah. And
just stay cool enough to sleep. Period.
We went from death penalty.
Oh, because you know what else?
What?
You know what else I got to hear?
What? When
I'm woken up by either my extreme hot or extreme coldness, I got to hear a freaking CPAP machine next to me. It goes all freaking night. And so then I wake up like, oh, and then I gotta go and I gotta deal with dumb people and watch a hawk murder an innocent mouse.
Man,
this is my morning.
So if I were to profile a serial killer, you would be it.
Okay, so back to our original topic.
Yes.
Could I get off by a jury?
No.
Because of all my
institutionalized, because you are stacking reasons to do murder.
Yeah.
And I think we talk about the topics publicly. So if anybody ever died in your circle, right, you would be at the top of the list. And we would check off the boxes. She drove herself crazy in every way that she could be driven crazy.
Every woman listening here, just get on my jury and I'll be fine. They get it. Julie gets it. Patricia gets it. Krista gets it.
So you're looking to create a little injustice for your benefit? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I just want fixed.
Yeah, you're working on it. And you're ahead of everyone who's not working on it.
Yeah.
And so you're still in good shape.
Okay, here's another thing, Dr. Joe.
Yeah.
Why is the scale going up? I'm like, I'm working out more often. I'm getting my protein. I'm watching what I eat. Why have I gained back almost all the weight I lost?
Is it in fat pounds or is it in muscle pounds?
I don't know. That's my question.
You could be muscle. You got a marginally higher weight per density with muscle than you do fat. So if your body isn't changing and the scale's going up, it's probably muscle fiber rather than adding fat back to it. So it's helpful to know the fat pounds so you know what that weight's attributed to.
How do you find that out? Because again, we've talked before. I have very little confidence in these smart scales.
Yeah.
Because my husband asked me this morning, I was like, why have I gained more weight? And he's like, well, does your body fat percentage go down on the scale? No. If the weight goes up, the body fat goes up.
I still think you're doing it.
If the weight goes down,
I still think you're doing it
down.
wrong. I think either you got a shitty scale or you're doing it wrong. One of the two.
Maybe both.
Okay.
But I'm like,
when I use mine, it works perfectly. I have it trending on a spreadsheet. Do you do
something other than stand on it?
What do you mean?
Like, how can I be using it wrong? You just stand on it.
You have to stand on it a certain way so that do you have little like silver metallic pads that are,
No.
so you need to get a good one.
Okay.
Okay. The good ones
Not a
actually
dirt lying scale.
have a metallic pad that's at the heel of your foot and the toe of your foot. So that it's pulsing energy through you, and you have to be making good contact on it. So if you're wrong on those pads, then it's not going to get a good pulse through you, and it's not going to be able to measure the density.
Well, I've even tried like getting on it, seeing what it says, and then getting back on, moving my feet a little bit and adjusting it, and it says
You're
the
just
same
doing
thing.
it wrong. Quit blaming. It's a you problem.
And I shouldn't even complain about that, because through this all this information I've been learning, they're constantly telling women, get off the scale. The scale is not a realistic piece of information about your progress.
You just need the data off of it so you can track progress and say if you're doing something wrong. So let's just say you're adding a protein shake at night.
Yeah.
Right.
Which has me a bit nervous to do.
Yeah. I would be very nervous for a protein shake right before bed. And so let's just say you did that and you start seeing fat percentage go up. It means that it's too much protein. Your body can't process it and it's being stored. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever additives were in the protein shake or whatever. And maybe backing that up and doing that in the morning, giving your body a lot of time to process it, means that you go into night in a fasted state and you move your workouts to a different time as well. But it's a you problem. I can almost guarantee
That's
it.
the thing. That's the only time I have for my workouts.
I know.
And
then argue with the scale, not with science.
Well, I have to argue with the doctor that said you've got to get 30, 40, whatever grams of protein in within 60 minutes of your workout, or you're not going to see the benefits of your workout. And then I say, but my workout is at bedtime. So I'm supposed to have a couple hundred calorie.
You are arguing with science. Okay. Science is not going to make special accommodations. I know you want it to, but it's not going to. So if it's like, do it in the morning, Kelin, so you have all day to process that, then you got to say, but I have to get up earlier and do my workout. And then science can say, I don't care. Sorry.
All right, we're going to experiment. What happens in my body if everything stays the same, but there's a protein shake at night? What happens if everything stays the same and there's no protein shake at night?
Your temperature doesn't fluctuate and you don't add 100 pounds? What if that happens?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. This started before I just started the protein shake at night. Like, I've had 2. This has been going on for at least a week or 2. So it can't be that as far as the hot and
I'm
cold.
still going to be critical that you're doing it. You're at fault and you got to change some stuff.
Me.
Okay. All right.
Julie says, hormones are a powerful thing. I have been on a weight loss regimen also and working out. The more I work out, the slower the weight loss. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Get those hormones under control. That is for sure.
But also too, like, again, if the scale is going to stay high, but the body composition changes, that's what I want. I don't care what the gravity
you
says.
feel better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't tie into a data point and get an emotional connection with it. Just a data point to be able to compare versus yesterday. And that way, when you change your behaviors, you can see it reflect in some kind of measurable data. And you know if that was a good thing and you want to keep doing it, or it didn't work out and you need to change it.
Okay, here's another thing,
Dr.
Joe.
No.
And I think the women are also going to have this issue. Swelling. Leg swelling. I am so sick of this. And I've made sure that I don't sit too long during the day. I've started wearing compression socks. I try to walk around because also standing too long does something for you. I exercise more. Make the swelling go away, Joe. Why? Why are my pants noticeably tighter at the end of the day than they are in the morning around my legs, no matter what I do?
Seek a medical professional for this to make sure this isn't a bad thing. There's only so much you could do to absorb, because you're probably drinking a ton of water throughout the day, because that is
I've increased my water intake lately. Yes.
So if you're unable to process that water, you don't have the electrolytes to have absorption happen.
Yeah.
Then the water is just going to wait to be evacuated.
Well, okay. So I have heard that you've got to have enough salt.
Way more salt.
To control the water retention.
Yes.
But too much salt will make it worse. So how do you know? How much do you need?
Oh, this is science that is pretty. You can research that and find out your body composition with how much dietary minerals that you need. And you can formulate it to make sure that in the food that you're getting, and then, I'm putting pinches, I'm way under. So when you get blood work done, pay attention to where you're at on things.
And when they say salt in your water, can that literally be any salt? Like, can I go get my salt shaker, or does it have to be
It has to be good salt.
Celtic salt?
It doesn't
or
have to be
whatever?
Celtic, but it has to be good quality salt.
How do you know what good quality salt is? Why is it so hard?
Because our food supply and system is so effing broken that you have to go through this crap to just stay balanced. So what RFK is doing for the health and nutrition is so needed. We are just keeping people alive, but very sick. And that's what you're experiencing.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I've been on the RFK bandwagon for so long. Is simply for the fact that you don't have to agree with everything he says or does. But the sheer fact that he's shining a spotlight on health issues at all, I'm like, oh, thank God. And that he's making people realize how complicated it could be because of how broken the system is. Like, you can go to the store and think what you're getting is healthy, and it's not at all. Or you can go and think you're supposed to go and get this medicine or this supplement or this whatever, and it's terrible for you. And we've been fed so much misinformation or a lack of information that we don't know what's right and wrong. And here comes somebody that's like, hey, we got to straighten some stuff out. We got to look into some stuff more. Okay, let's do it.
And let me complain. We got to get off this topic because social media hates when people talk about health, which is a
problem.
They suppress it because they're insulating a topic so that people that don't have credentials aren't talking this way about people's health, because then other people act on it and they do dumb things and they hurt themselves, right? So you can understand why they do it, but this needs to be the most talked about thing, not the least. And every time we do these get suppressed where we only get a dozen people that see this on the national scale.
Yeah, you want to talk about censorship? Somebody starts talking about something you should do for yourself that's good for you, and it gets buried.
For sure.
And nobody will even see that.
All right, we're getting off this topic. Let's go to the
censorship,
the P. Diddy stuff.
Oh God!
All right, so you know how
Diddy.
I feel about our culture and really being pro pedophilia, pro misbehavior, pro demonic. Like we have so many of the people who are ruling over us that we put on a pedestal that are misbehaving in such a way. Because you got to look at it this way, just like we talk about a lottery winner. If they're a bad person, the lottery just magnifies everything that there is, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are being ruled by demons and you give them power and money, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to do demonic stuff, and they're going to do terrible things that when it's brought to light, that we're appalled that we can't believe these bad people who sing about killing and hoes and drugs and whatever are killing and drugs and hoes. And we're like, how did that happen? Right? Come on. But, the bad part is how insulated they are and how protected they are. Because if we knew how many of them were terrible people, we would not give them any of the power that they have. Like, what would happen to our government if a majority of the people were, we just kind of, my AI that tells everything that they're doing. Yeah. If we just got the load, right, the data dump on everything that they really do and really think and really are, how many of them would be there? I would like to think that they would be sent to an island and be cast into a volcano. But if it's on your team, right?
Yeah.
Then they might not get cast in. And I fear that more than anything else. So the P. Diddy stuff.
And then unfortunately, there's other fear that makes it more difficult to even prosecute anyone, because I heard somewhere on the radio and I sort of tuned in the middle of a conversation, so I might have missed some of this. So this may or may not be true. But it sounds like they said that they're having difficulty finding a jury because people are afraid of what he can do to them. And the important people who he's going to name are going to come out through the trial and what they could do to them. Yeah. So it's like, whether it's politics, whether it's P. Diddy, whether it's anybody in a position of power and influence, it's now harder to prosecute because you've got to get a jury of their peers, and you can't find that if even they are threatened. or corrupt themselves. So how do you do it?
Between Diddy and Epstein and everything that I hope comes out, right?
Yeah.
It is going to change the landscape of who our rulers are. I hope.
So you had asked earlier about would you do the right thing knowing it could cause chaos and
100%.
destruction? If you were up for jury duty in a high profile case against someone that dangerous, would you do the right thing knowing you could be in danger?
If the system is broken, would I take a risk for a broken justice system? Hell no. No.
Like they won't keep me safe.
If I felt like it was a system that was blind and it just did the right thing too, I would join it because they'd be on my team. If they're corrupt and they just do things politically motivated and you can buy yourself out of going to jail for killing 2 people, yeah, I'm not going to play that game.
Yeah, like would you be like, I want witness protection when this trial is done and during, but would you trust that you could get it?
No, not at all, because I think the people would be protecting me are also part of the scheme. I don't trust any of it.
So do you think he's gonna get off pretty easily?
P. Diddy?
Yeah. Or at least a lighter sentence?
No, I think what they'll do is he will take the fall, right? And all of those lists that he has where he can name people, that will go away. Those people will be protected and he'll take the fall.
You think he'll last in prison long?
Well, I think the deal to keep the name sealed will give him the insulation from him being killed in jail or whatever. He'll be a liability.
Insulate him from unaliving himself.
Unaliving. Well, that might happen too. That's a strategy, a very popular strategy amongst the rich and powerful, is that if he doesn't play ball and protect the people that were part of those parties, then yeah. But I don't know that people in entertainment are as protected as people in politics. So a lot of those people are entertainers. So you'll see a lot of your favorite movie stars and whatever might go down as part of this, because I know he's got that button, right?
Yeah.
If
they say it was like, especially years ago, it was the place to be, was at a P. Diddy party. And if you were up and coming in Hollywood, you needed to be there. So now, even if you went there and didn't know there was any wrongdoing, you just look bad by being there.
Did you see James O'Keefe is doing what the Trump administration is not doing? He's releasing those videos.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Did we have another one?
Yeah, he had another one, and there was video footage. Nobody was in it, but it was actually just showing the place that these guys partied in on Epstein's Island, and the kitchen on the wall has a big painting portrait of a baby, like a young kid, in a bathtub filled with blood, holding a phallic item. So you walk into a kitchen, and that's the artwork that you display.
What?
How deranged and demonic was these whole subcultures that nobody called out while it was happening, and tons of people participated. And you walk into the kitchen and see that being displayed and the debauchery that's happening around you. Those people need to be thrown in that volcano yesterday.
You know what I heard recently? I saw a snippet of a podcast. This is so effed up. Like, I didn't want to bring this up, but maybe we should be so that people know the magnitude of this. It was a Tim Tebow interview. And he's been really active lately with trying to stop pedophiles and sex trafficking and things of that nature. And he was talking about a case they were looking into of, there's a lot of words you can't say on YouTube. People, young, like kids, were being assaulted brutally while someone stood there and read the Bible to them so that they would associate this with the word of God, just to mess them up more. Mm-hmm. And then they were continued to abuse. They did all that. And then they have conversations from these sick, twisted people about growing their own, meaning we impregnate, we have offspring of our victims to make new victims. Like they are growing more if they can't find more. And I'm like, if that's not the most effed up thing I
Evil.
have ever
Demonic evil.
That is evil. And I'm just like, oh my God. And so how big is this? How do you stop it? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like the ungluing of the Epstein and P. Diddy thing side by side. And we get to peek in with how many of these are. I mean, you can't look through news articles and not find somebody who's just now going to prison for that kind of stuff. So how many patrons of this? Everybody who's reasonable will say those people need to be distanced from society. And everything that contributes to that needs to be, we need to figure out those universities on the Hill, figure out what leads to that. And we need to rid ourselves of that in society. And if it needs to be tyrannical, that is the first tyranny that I will actually support, is getting rid of the demonic culture that we're in right now.
Because like we were saying earlier, the difference between, do they deserve a death penalty? I don't know anyone that wouldn't want them taken out.
For sure.
But if they're sick in the head, should they just be in an institution for life? You've got to be broken in the head to do things like that. Something in your wiring has gone wrong.
Right.
So what? Where does it start? How do you find this before it gets to that point? You know, like, and then would you take someone in an instance like that and say, just hospitalize them for the rest of their lives, or take them out?
That's a medical question to see if those people are redeemable. I don't know that they are. I don't know what it would take. I don't know what kind of rehabilitation someone can go through to squeeze that out of them, if it can even be done. And if it can't be done, children need to be protected.
I mean, even the argument, like we've talked about this sick, twisted argument about how some people believe that pedophilia should just be accepted. Like, hey, there was like a term I think we talked about that there's like a group of people that just like younger, I don't know. They're trying to justify it, basically. Even if it were just the act of child abuse and how sick that is. But when you throw into it the planning that goes, the thought process, the how can we find more victims, the artwork behind it, even the whole, I'm going to read the Bible to them while I do this just to mess them up more. That's now more than just one screw loose. That is premeditated evil. That is, I want to make this as horrific as I can. And it's like, to me, that's a whole other level than just, I'm sick in the head and I'm attracted to kids and I need help.
Yeah, like what's contributing to that, where these aren't outliers. It's obviously when you become wealthy and you have power and you're protected from the consequences of your actions, then this sprouts up. And is there a counterforce that stops that from happening? And it's not, if we lived in a society where there were one or two serial killers, we'd know how to deal with that. But if we were amongst all serial killers, like I saw the Tim Tebow thing, they had a map plotted with how many people were patrons of that kind of material. And it wasn't one-offs. If you look at the Predator map for people who need to distance themselves from kids and education institutions, that thing looks like chickenpox. There's probably 5 on your block right now. So it is so prevalent. This is not one-off. We need to hit it with the nuclear option, not this whole, let's be delicate and not hurt anybody's feelings. So the volcano needs to be big and it needs to have a lot of lava, because we're going to be dismantling a lot of people.
Gosh. Dennis says some people think that can be rehabilitated, like they think morality can be legislated. Julie says, evil is evil. I don't care if they have a mental problem. They should not breathe another breath.
Yep. And if that's what they come up with, I mean, I'm okay either way. If you can bring someone back without having to kill them and it's 100%, you never put them in front of another child again.
No. And that's the thing. Like, when I hear about something so evil like that, to just give them the death penalty seems too humane. I feel like they get off too easily. Like, I don't want you to just be injected with something and you go to sleep and you're done now. I want you to live out the rest of your days in absolute agony.
Yeah, well,
But-
we are wired to know that that is not something that is natural or should be tolerated.
Yeah.
And so when someone does that, it should be such a big overreaction so that it dissuades anybody from ever doing it because they know what the consequences are. But then we profile it, and if you're rich and powerful, you just kind of get away with it. And so it's like, hey, I'm going to just go down all of my impulse boulevards and do everything that feels good. And if that means preying upon children as part of that, then so be it. Nobody gets in trouble for that anyway.
So let's talk about a slippery slope idea.
Yeah.
You talked about the like the map where people have to register if they are a sex offender. You see them in their neighborhoods and everything. If they abused a child, obviously they should be looked at a certain way. How do you feel about that same list of evil perverts, including somebody who was 19 and slept with a 17-year-old, and now they're on a list? Do you look at it the same way, or do you like, that's different?
Well, if you're writing the law to take someone who actually preyed on an age that was young, right, way before they even can enter into any kind of relationship, the rules got to be hard and fast. Like, there are people who are dabbling on the fringes of that, and I'm not going to throw them on in the volcano. If like a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, that seems like there wasn't any predation that was happening there. That was just someone who happened to be young. So there does have to be someone of reasonable nature that can decide whether or not this was someone taking advantage of another human being and they were their prey versus the other one.
And what made me think of it is we did last summer, we got my house and all our neighbors got a notification in the mail that a registered person, an offender, has now moved into our neighborhood. And it's literally like 2 houses down. Like, I can see his house from my front door.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of us are online and looking it up and seeing what the charges were. Like, okay, let's not freak out. Is this a case that it's either blatantly and horrifically wrong, or was this I was in a bad situation, it wasn't as bad as it sounds, kind of thing like that? And so that's why I wonder, like, should those notifications be an automatic, oh my gosh, something awful?
Should be like the manslaughter versus murder, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're 100% certain that this was a predator that needs not hurt another child again, they go right into the lava. And some fringe ones that it was like you were just going through a school zone and you're unfamiliar with the area should be judged the same way.
Yeah. Dennis says, what do you think of Epstein's artwork of Clinton in the blue dress and Bush playing with toy airplanes?
I did not see that, so I'm not sure.
Should we Google it? Is it online? First of all, did James O'Keefe do this yesterday?
Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Tuesday. I was saying, I totally forgot because I wrote him off thinking you're sensationalizing something for your own benefit.
Yeah. So he's digging into it. He's getting a little bit more high resolution, and he's forcing the hand of the Trump administration. So hopefully, like they're saying 14 terabytes of stuff was recovered, video footage, which means
a terabyte a lot.
Of terabytes, a lot of video.
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
And so they've got a lot of video. I think they said like 10,000 clips they're going through. So I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt that there's just a trove of information. But if it doesn't lead to prosecutions or names being named of that sliver of these were true people there that were being, not just on a flight log, not that just appeared somewhere on a poolside somewhere, but these are people on video that were breaking the law with children, right? Lava right now for them. And we need to know about it, and they need to go to prison for it.
What do you think the indication of Clinton, the blue dress, and Bush playing with toy airplanes? They were in this Manhattan penthouse.
And those are like like they were there. They were, they were a spectacle. They were, part of the culture there. So if Clinton was involved and they put a blue dress picture of her or you know what I mean?
So I guess his point is they were close enough to have something like this, even if it's
they were being spotlighted in something. So again, that's like the flight logs to me. So whether or
Yeah.
not somebody was there. I want to know who did things that were illegal, that preyed on children. That's all that matters to me. If they were there, it's not a great sight. You know, even if I don't have evidence, I'm still suspicious of you that you even went there in the first place, knowing
Yeah.
everybody knew. That's the thing. You didn't go there and not know the stuff that was happening there. And, you know, the after hours parties and the freak offs and whatever, they all knew what was happening, and nobody threw anybody under the bus. And that's the most disheartening thing. Take those industries that participated that way and cast them all out, redo them, put all Amish people. I'll watch Amish movies. All right. I will. If they want to make Amish music, I'll go Amish, because I know they're not doing that. I think they're not doing that shit. I don't know. No.
What if it's worse?
Oh, dude, I don't want to think that way. I want to think that they're pristine and lily white. I don't want to think that they're
Somewhere
part of
an Amish person's like, what the hell? Drug into this.
They're not watching YouTube. I can almost be assured of it.
Yeah. Oh God. And but then, and I've heard of people saying, you know, like they were at a Diddy party and then they saw a kid and they were like, oh, well, that's kind of inappropriate. A kid shouldn't be here. And they went about their way and didn't think anything of it. So I think you might have instances of that, but at the same time, I think you very much have instances where they were just afraid for their own life.
Well, not only their life, that, you know, like, let's just say a woman wants to get a part in a role, or a role in a movie, and she knows she has to sacrifice herself to the person that's going to put her on that role. So she does a bad thing, knowing that if she doesn't do that thing, that somebody else will, and they're going to be placed in the role, right?
Yeah.
So all of those people know what they have to do to stay in the good graces of the people that will make them famous and put money in their bank account. If you do something, you get blacklisted and you never work again. That's enough leverage, especially if it's all ego in that industry anyway. You're not going to do the right thing if you're the one that's going to take the fall for it.
Well, and don't people say that Diddy's ex is now unalived?
Is she?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Wasn't it? Is it Kim Petras or Kim Petras or something?
I'm following, but not real.
I think there's a strong rumor that he had her unalived.
So either way, if you can control people not to say things by limiting their career, or the threat to their life and livelihood are interlinked. And so, again, insulated, and they pulled it off.
So you saw something that seemed really, really wrong, but your life, your family were threatened. Would you be like, I'll look the other way, or I'm going to cause?
No, I've done it. I have cut my legs off in the business community because I was pressured to do something that I knew that was wrong, and I turned over that information to people, right? And they did something with it, thankfully. So I was playing in a game where my sacrifice at least serves some kind of justice. Now, if it didn't, that's a different story, where if I just sacrificed my career and then it went nowhere and there was no justice, I wouldn't play that game.
Especially like if you turn it into somebody, but they were corrupt, and you're not going to benefit.
So that's why the whole thing needs to fall and become unglued, because all the people that are controlling the information in those industries need to lose all power. And I think there's a lot of them.
Yeah. Julie says, how do you feel about young female teachers that have sex to their students? Double standards, Joe?
No, they're preying upon children. There's no double standards there.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, whether it's a male teacher and a female student, or a female teacher and a male student.
And you are seeing now that is happening way more than it does before. And I think that's always happened, but I think it got away with it because when women do it, it's treated different. I mean, the double standards would be like if we both went to a park and you made a reference to a kid like, oh, your kid is so beautiful, right? Yeah. And the mom would be like, oh, thank you. And I was like, oh, your kid's so beautiful. They'd be like, go, let's get out of here. That's the double standard, where nobody should be calling attention to an attraction level to a kid. That just should be bad behavior.
Yeah, because you almost have those people where, like, if it's a male teacher, female student, whoa, clearly wrong. But if it's a female teacher, male student,
high five
the student. Oh yeah, good for you, kind of thing. Not everybody, but less shock, less people I think are appalled if it's a female teacher. Still wrong, still manipulation, still not right.
But what it does is it stops us from having the conversation. Why are we so comfortable with sexualization? So that if you had a 14-year-old boy that was watching pornography, it'd make complete sense to then have sex with his teacher if she was willing, because that's the culture. We're so permissive of sexual behaviors early. And, if that 14-year-old kid got exposed to pornography that they shouldn't be watching, do you think that that is breaking their brain in any way? For sure.
Yeah.
And so if we're so permissive of the thing that's breaking their brain, and then we're outraged when brains are broken.
Well, when we even have the double standard in a legal relationship, if it's a man who's quite a bit older than his female partner, and I'm talking, they're both of legal age. Oh, he looks like a weirdo and maybe she's a gold digger, or something's going on there that is anything other than just a healthy relationship. But older woman, younger man, it's, ooh, you go, girl. Ooh, you got yourself. Oh, she's a cougar. Oh, it's like it's still looked at differently, even though it's the same thing.
Yeah, because we have an arbitrary set of moral standards that we're allowed to like bend and shape, instead of having a principle that we all just say, this is right, this is wrong, and gray areas between it just cloud everybody's judgments on principles.
Speaking of this,
yeah,
how do you feel about, oh God, what's his name? The football coach with the really
Bill
young...
Belichick.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everybody keeps talking about how they feel so bad for Bill Belichick. Why do you feel bad for Bill Belichick? Seriously? Because he's being used? Does it look like he minds all that much? Like, how do you feel about this situation?
I really don't care. They're getting whatever they need out of the relationship. They're both super aware of what's happening.
Is she potentially a gold digger? Sure, maybe. Is he just in it because she's 20-something, young and hot? Probably.
Yeah, there's no victim in this.
She's controlling everything.
Good.
Okay.
And he's tolerating it.
If he doesn't like it, he can leave.
Yeah, if you said that she was holding him hostage for it and she was doing something illegal, now I'm listening. But if it's just two people getting out of it what they want out of it, same thing with Leonardo DiCaprio and his young girlfriend.
Clearly,
who cares?
Clearly, whatever he's getting from her trumps any sort of annoyance he would get from the relationship.
I got no opinion, free will, baby.
Oh my gosh. Or how about what's his face? The guy we sort of touched on this, and then I heard more about it. I don't know sports. What's his name? The commentator, and he was like dating some hooker, and then now they're saying he abused her. Shannon Sharp. Yeah.
Okay.
He left his job, I think, right? Or I don't know if he got let go.
I think, is that the guy that came out and said it before she had a chance to say it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
I'm still getting bits and pieces of information here.
Yeah.
So I still can't quite figure out what exactly went down, but it still sounds to me like even if he was doing something that makes him look like a scumbag, did she mind if it was benefiting her?
Well, a lot of those cases I don't pay attention to until far down the line, because if you're in a position where you have a lot of money and someone says something about you to settle financially on it, there's a lot of those that happen. Yeah. So what he came out and said is there's this person that's, asking for $50 million and she's going to say a bunch of stuff. And I just wanted you to hear from me first. Okay. That seems pretty reasonable. Yeah. And she says her things and see if a payoff happens and see if it goes away. But I'll wait until far down on the runway to have any kind of feelings about it. Because it could be either one. He could be a douchebag and exploited somebody when he had the ability to, and that would make him the bad person. Or she could be that gold digger who's just looking for a payday. So I don't know which it is.
And I hate to do the whole, I don't want to sound like I'm ever victim blaming or shaming. I don't know who the victim is in that scenario, but every time she released a snippet of him and he's saying something and he sounds like a jerk, I'm like, this was how long ago? And you continue to date him? He said that, and you still were in a relationship, and you still were with him, and you still, like, that almost sort of is like, well, then why now? Why are you seeking money? Why are you like, this isn't something that he did something awful and you went, oh my gosh, this is unacceptable. I'm outraged. Where's my money? This is, I continued to then be with him. until something else happened. And now I'm going to say I'm outraged and want money. It's hard to trust people.
No, you can't trust people.
You really can't.
If I were a Shannon Sharp, high profile, do you know how deliberate I would be without with being in the same room with someone, having conversations, being in a relationship? I would have to dot every I and cross every T, because I know that there are people that are waiting for me to let my guard down and are going to take advantage of it, publicly embarrass me, potentially ruin my career, and take all of my money. You have to know that. That's part of the job of being a high profile person, is you got to defend against those types of people.
I did see RFK Jr. On a podcast a while back talking about Epstein. And I was thinking, oh, I think he's getting in front of this. And he said, I've met him one time. It was on a plane. I didn't know much about who he was. I knew who he was, but we had no interactions or anything before. They happened to be on a plane together, and RFK says they landed somewhere. He watched Epstein talk to a guy off the plane and then said, hey, you guys go on. I'm doing whatever. They parted ways. So there was no business dealings. There was no social interaction. It was just a very quick meeting. And he even says, I could tell immediately that dude was bad. Yeah. Like something was shady. Something wasn't right. Something was off here. I could tell that he was up to no good, but he left. I left. We never talked again, really. Yep. But I was like, I wonder if he told that story to be like, if my name is ever, oh, you were on a plane with Epstein. I absolutely was.
Oh, yeah.
And here was the situation. Yeah.
Laying down cover fire for yourself. And that might mean that he knows they're close to start releasing those names. I'm hopeful. Mm-hmm. Every week that goes by, right, that they don't, I think it's less and less clear whether or not we'll ever know. And what would be the downside if we never know? Nothing.
It's that idea of avoiding the unrest, I guess. If we release this and there is massive unrest and almost no one left in leadership to calm people down and move the situation forward, that's going to be pretty bad. And again, that idea of how do you prosecute when there will be no one that is unbiased?
And your Justice Department might be equally as guilty as the people they're prosecuting. So you need an L8S, I'm telling you.
I wonder if this will be sealed and for years until everyone involved is gone. You know, like we're getting all these documents for JFK and all this stuff. Like, what would that really matter now, other than if it can prove something was covered up?
And nobody cares. Even when people went through the JFK files, nobody knew the relevance because they weren't really born.
That literally was like, oh, we're releasing them.
Who cares?
Yeah.
That's a strategy.
So I bet you if we ever see a full Epstein document, release of information, whatever it is, it will probably be well into the future when it can't hurt anyone involved.
And the people like Ghislaine Maxwell is gone.
Yeah.
Right. So anybody who could tie it to people and have justice done.
She's gone. Clinton's gone. Bush is
now
gone.
we know about
Everybody's
it. Everybody's
gone. Yeah.
And that's a strategy. They have the ability to definitely make it take a long time to come through with this.
Yeah.
All they got to do is say, oh, there's 10,000 videos. It's going to take forever to go through these. We're going to do one a day. And 10,000 days later, and then everybody who was paying attention is like, I don't care anymore.
Because what are you going to do? Just erupt in mass chaos with no end, with no ability to corral it? And would you rather see the mass chaos?
Yes. It is mass chaos, and we're in denial.
Well, because then at least, even if they said, here's the thing, here's the information, look at it for yourself. We can't prosecute. We can't throw anyone in jail. At least the public can do what they will with it. At least we're not reelecting people, and we're not putting people in positions, and we're not listening to them anymore, and we're not whatever. We're shining a huge spotlight. We know what was done, so now we're going to avoid it with you all again, even if they don't serve prison time. Would you think that would be beneficial enough?
Then the vigilante squad gets together, and that could be a dangerous thing. The economy could crash. There's no upside to this. Like it literally, nothing happening would be the best scenario, and that sucks.
Yeah. I mean, if the market tanked like it did at the mere mention of tariffs, what is it going to do that there's proof that we have no one left in leadership that isn't
corrupted?
Yeah, or should be in prison for something awful. What, like, I wonder, what, like, does the general public think it's worth it?
It needs to happen because it's true.
I can't imagine. Julie says those that have the info and will not release it are as bad as the perp.
100%.
It's not only everybody who was involved with Epstein, but it's everybody who knew about it, everybody who covered it up.
Well,
everybody who it's.
Well, here's the deal. Like, someone who I do appreciate is Elon Musk. And when Musk was going through the fraud and waste, he said that I can't even tell you about it because I'm going to be killed. I hold him responsible for that because he right now knows something, right, that he will not tell you, knowing that he'll be killed if you told it. So,
then what did the general public do? Bash Musk.
Right.
Because the bad people know that's
so
what we'll do.
Who's going to protect the truth tellers from being offed if they say the thing they know that happened?
No, and this is their strategy. If anybody gets too close and starts to die, they are made to look like a villain or crazy or dangerous or all three.
Yeah.
I think they did it to Elon. I think they've been trying to do it to RFK, to Tulsi. Anybody that is like, hey, I want to dig into corruption, they will destroy you, and they will make the American people hate you more than they hate them.
That, again, just like the blacklisting you for an actor. You're going to do bad things. You're going to know stuff that's happened and know you can't say anything to anybody because, number one, nobody will be at your defense. Nobody will protect you, right? And number two, you'll be discredited, you'll be ruined, and never work again. It's the perfect scenario for nothing to happen.
Have you ever been the victim of an attempted blackmail? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
How do you get out of that situation? Do you just say, I'll bring this to light myself?
There was nothing. Like there was two scenarios. One, I asked for help and didn't get it, so it went nowhere. And the other one, I just said, no, I'm not going to do anything about it.
I've been in not like an intense blackmail, not like a, legal business matter, nothing that would have had any matter in my life. But I have had someone say to me before, because you said this, I'm now going to hold that you said this in case you ever tell someone that I said this. Like I told you a secret, you told me a secret. So if you ever blab, then I'm going to share your secret. And I kind of went, I'll just go share my secret. Like, it's not big enough that I'm going to let you hold something over me. I'll go tell them myself. And then what? I still got yours, what? But the fact
I'm not playing that game at all.
But the fact that that even came up in that situation, I was like, oh, you really learn who you're dealing with. Like, who am I surrounded by? People are shady.
Mm-hmm. And most of what Epstein, sold was the blackmail evidence to control other people by what he got on film from people. So if you went to one of his parties and he caught you on film with a young girl, he would hang that over your head and be able to control you. But they also, the second part of this is they did that as a part of national security. So they took operatives who would use him on purpose to get dirt on someone who were one of our adversaries. So we used an institution of demonic filth for a useful law enforcement tool. And so the government is weaved within that operation. So when you out the people who were just there on holiday, you also get the ones where our government was complicit in using it as a strategy against our adversaries, which is dirty as can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard a little bit more about that too. The government sort of running things.
Oh, yeah.
Dennis says you should watch the pod interview with former Congressman Kurt Weldon. PBD interview.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
Who's Kurt Weldon?
Don't know.
Ooh.
I'm gonna find out.
Julie says, if good people do nothing, we are doomed. I think we are doomed.
I see Julie's on Team Joe now. And it's not me being cynic. It's me seeing all of the math and where it leads unless something huge happens. And I'm every day knowing that we are being insulated from the huge things being even possible.
And I think any possibility of a good person doing something gets squashed by that good person being threatened. They could still be a good person. They could still want to bring it to life. But if they're like, we'll kill your family. I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but somebody said that they heard that Zelensky was threatened. You and your family, your lives are at stake if you ever even attempt to talk to Putin to settle anything in this war. Do not, or you're done for. Like, that's why he won't even have a discussion, or wouldn't have a discussion. And it's like, if that's true, can you blame him? Like, what do you do if someone like threatens your family and you know they can do it? Then you got to be Liam Neeson.
So let me point this out. So the secular experiment, I have to point out on a regular basis that they own what's happening. So here's the deal. Society turned its back on the church, right? The church had a lot of misdeeds where they preyed on children. So we're like, the church is causing...
Different prayed.
Yeah. Yeah, different. Bad prayed.
The bad pray, yeah.
And so like, oh, the church is contributing to all this child predation and they're covering it up. So we removed the church from the deal. And then what did we get? Child predation, where everybody's cutting up. It was not the institution that was causing the problem. It was an acknowledgement that human beings are flawed. And if they're not regulated and, given a reason not to do it and punished appropriately, that's what you get. Yeah. That is the evilness. So what makes this better? How do you solve playing the long game? On the short term, there's not much except for big disaster that's going to get rid of this problem. Long game, how do you institute and, mind control and change people's brains so they're pursuing virtues, real, actual virtues that keep people clean, not free of strays and mess ups and whatever, but has the primary, mission of keeping people behaving and acting appropriate. I say this is the church's Super Bowl. If not, like this new pope, if he, gets rid of the LGBTQ and the immigration talk, which is not a big deal, but this is a huge deal. The evilness that's just gone in every corner of our civilization said that's the biggest threat to humanity right now. Yeah. And let's get the church's influence to make better people. And so maybe in 20 years from now, there'll be better people to make their way into Congress. And then, like Julie said, if good people now have hit the timeout button and say, whoa, we're not tolerating this. If you get enough of those, then they can power check the people who are just demonic villains.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, we're getting more and more pushback from the people that want to say, oh, I'm not going to listen to a religious leader because you all are the worst because somebody else did something wrong. Like, just because you choked on a fruit or vegetable doesn't mean fruit and vegetables are bad for people. The thing isn't bad. These people were bad. The greater cause is still good. They were corrupt.
Just from a sheer mathematical standpoint, if you preach virtues of saying don't do this versus don't preach anything, let people find you through their instinct what morality is, mathematically, which do you think has a higher probability of creating more or fewer people who are pursuing virtues?
I mean, ideally, you would think that would help. Unfortunately, we're getting to this spot in humanity where if you preach virtues, you're hateful. You're hating.
Yes, and judgmental and all the things that are necessary so that demons don't arise in every corner of our society.
To say this is wrong, we shouldn't do it.
F that.
Well, why would you put your beliefs on me? You're a terrible person.
Yeah, no, you're not a terrible person. You need to do more of it. You need to judge people and shame people, make them feel bad about their choices, hold them to accountability and personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Or else you create these demonic forces. That is the alternative. Feel bad or create demon. Yeah. You choose. My goodness, this is so stupid.
Krista says, how do you know that people who power check and are actually good people? Do you look past things they've done because they have the courage to stand up to something you question?
That's a good point, because so if we use an analogy of if we do a thing that we don't really want to do, will it give you 100% results, right? If you put a quarter in a vending machine, will you get a candy bar, right? So the determination was, if I'm going to have the church tell me what to do and make me feel guilty about my choices, they better be 100%, right?
Yeah.
They better create all virtuous people, or we're not going to do any of it. We're not talking about a cut of 100% binary yes or no thing. We're saying things that make things incrementally or marginally better mathematically. So how do you know the people? You're going to have the church, and you're still going to have bad people, and they're still going to be corrupt. They're still going to do bad things, right? It does not mean that on the aggregate that you don't do any of it if the results are less than the improved net gain by doing the thing.
Yeah, nothing is going to be perfect.
No.
There will be flaws, but what has a higher chance of working than not?
Yes.
Like clearly, if we say, all right, don't listen to any of the clergy and don't listen to the church and don't listen to any of these people because some of them have done wrong, and we stop listening to them all, do we get better? No, we don't. We continue to get worse because we chose to just discount everything involved with it.
Yeah, and there will be, that's a guarantee. So if RFK shares all the information about health, right? Mm-hmm. And we restrict what people can do. And then we're looking through that same prism and saying, well, either everybody is healthy if we do this, or nobody is healthy. So if we do what we're doing, everybody just has chronic disease and we're addicted to pharmaceuticals and everybody's, miserable in their unhealth. Or maybe 10% of the people, because of the new data and the new whatever, get healthier. So which is better? The same amount that we are right now, no improvement, or 10% got healthy and it was worth pursuing, right?
Yeah. And that's why I get so mad when they try to push out this thing like, I want you to say this vaccine's okay, this drug is fine, this is blah, blah, blah. Because if you don't, that makes people think it's not safe and they're hurting themselves. And it's like, I literally yelled when I heard that. And I said, we're not stupid. Like, if he says nothing about a medication and simply just says, here's the information, here are the pros and cons, here are the facts, here are the studies, here you go, I'm leaving my opinion out of it, I can appreciate that. I don't need someone saying you should do this, because we saw that with COVID. You made somebody say something. You made somebody say we should do this, we should take this, we should act this way. And then when more information came out, oops, like, you should have just presented the information to begin with, rather than, nope, you have to say this, you have to do this, you have to do this.
Do you remember, what's that comedian that, what the heck is his name? He was on the talent judging thing.
America's Got Talent.
Yeah, the comedian guy, squirrely dude. He was really funny in the 80s and 90s, but then went total political. What the heck is his name?
Rob Schneider went a little political in the 80s. Went political.
What the heck is his name? But anyway, RFK had an interview with this guy, and he said something, and RFK was like, I'll show you the video of them saying it. And he was like, no, I don't want to see the video. That's like what we've become to, that even when we have the data, there's so many delusional people who are stuck in the religion of, in this case, COVID or vaccines or whatever, that data is the furthest thing from what's available to anybody. So it's almost like the politicians know that the people can't even make their own judgments. They need to be told what to do. And so they were trying to back RFK into saying something so that he contradict himself in the future, or, lead to a commercial when they're running for an election. So it's just gotten so incredibly stupid at this point that we will do it because we're reasonable, but everybody else, our fellow citizens, they haven't got a chance. They have no hope. God. Howie Mandel, that's it.
Howie Mandel got political?
Yes, he's a dick. He really is.
Really?
Yeah. Be a comedian, get the hell out of the political space. Because I liked him. I thought he was a funny dude in the 90s. He was funny.
I did see he does something with podcasting. I didn't know he got into political realms, though.
He does.
Well, I'll have to go look him up.
Little dick now.
Oh, little OCD guy. Now, Krista says, no, we already read that one, huh? Julie, what is the purpose of a life if not to be a good person and promote humanity? I know, emotional.
No, I agree with you. And that is the pursuit of virtue, is you get purpose, you get humility, name them out. And that is the most.
And to your point, not only emotional, but logically that would work out too.
Yes.
That's what you should be. That's how you do have success. That's how you do have good things that happen.
But it's the pursuit of those things, not I'm trying to be a good person so that everybody around me is pointing out how I failed at trying to accomplish that. You get on that scale every day. And if you effed up yesterday, you try again today. But there's got to be a pressure on you to make you want to do something you don't feel like, you don't like doing. It's
the pursuit of the emotional that makes that not
that's
work.
The fuel. Absolutely. The fuel of being a better human being controls your actions and your disciplines.
But everybody's got this new idea of what a good human being is.
What feels good.
Yeah. So they could be like, I'm a good person because I say, let them be themselves and they can do whatever they want. And what do you care? And when you're like, well, actually what they're doing is wrong. And here's why. And here it's how it's harmful for people. Well, you're just judgmental and you're terrible. Let them be.
How did we get to the point where judgment seems almost like the vice? Like
it's a bad thing.
Yeah, well, why is judgment a bad thing? Why is shame a bad thing? Because it makes people feel bad?
There's a difference, I think, between judgment and maybe... I think you can have judgment and still have grace. Like I've been accused of doing this, like with girlfriends growing up and stuff. You always hear things like, "Oh, I like this. She doesn't judge me. You don't judge me. We don't judge each other." But that can lead to some excuse allowing. If you do something and it was wrong, and I'm your friend, I can still tell you it was wrong.
Yes,
I don't have to hate you.
That's basically what she said.
Yeah,
which was being a good person and humanity. It's your obligation. That when you see evil, that you call it out. That's being a human being.
And you can help them better themselves or
by giving the information that they and not only the information, because I do not believe that people don't know when they're eating cheeseburgers that it's not good for them. But if you shame them and you judge them and you give them the information and challenge what they're doing, you might have a chance of having them make a different decision that's leading to something that they're going to be complaining about.
Yeah. Krista says, but why chip away at cast doubt on childhood vaccine mandates, especially in the face of measles outbreaks that had been under control for decades? Some data out there aren't digestible to most lay people, especially medical data. That's why we need the leader of the country's healthcare to help people make the best choice to control potential outbreaks.
But if it's challenged, right, then it's not truth. It's almost like everything else we're talking about. Is that if it's not a truthful thing, but there's a consequence by telling a truthful thing, do you do the truthful thing in spite there being a consequence? And that would be true nobility, is making truth more important than having a cost or consequence. So if I say something like, I have this medicine and it might work out for you, there's some downside to it. I can't tell you to take it because there's dangers and risks, and I don't want the dangers and risks to visit you. If I say that to 100 people, 50 of them might say no, and now they don't have the thing that they actually need.
Yeah.
Versus saying, all right, you got the measles vaccine. Hasn't been tested the way that I'm comfortable with it being tested. I want it to be safer with you. If I say that and somebody says, well, if it's untested, somebody might not take it, and somebody then might get the measles. So you got to pick it. Do I want truth, right, and just be informed, or do I want to be lied to so that I make the decision you want me to make?
Yeah. And when RFK was talking about this in that hearing, one person spoke who said he's an obstetrician. He's a doctor. He's been practicing for years. And he says, when it comes to the measles vaccine, if a pregnant patient said, should I take this? I would say, no, you should not. If a non-pregnant healthy woman said, should I take this? I would say yes. Different situations in which I will tell you what is safe and what is not. That's not RFK Jr.'s job to say, take this, when he doesn't know your medical background. He doesn't know if it's safe for you. He doesn't know if you're pregnant or not. All these different things. So when people say, well, I trust a doctor, you want to go trust your doctor with it? Fine. But don't say RFK should stop making people unsure. No. He's saying, here's all the information. Right. Decide for yourself, or take this to your own doctor.
And that was Krista was saying, is that if you say those things, then people won't blindly just do the thing that they should do, and they'll have to put it through their own rubric to find out if they should do that. And that's asking too much from the person. It needs to be on the authority. You got to have good authorities in order for that to work.
What happened with the COVID vaccine?
They
People were
effed
pushed
it up.
to say
they were effed up.
You have to take this. You should take this. This is good for you. And then it was shown that it was not good for some people, that it was harmful for some people. So what should have been done? Should they have just said, all right, here's all the information we have, make a decision for yourself? Or do you want them to say, take this and be wrong?
No advisement should come from an authority at the CDC or the NIH or any government entity, because health stuff should be between you and a doctor that can see you and help you weigh those consequences.
Yeah.
If you're taking advice from a public health official directly, you are completely doing it wrong.
Yep. Julie says, I'm about to spend a week with a very judgmental person, not looking forward to it. Well, that sucks. Krista says, of course, it's ultimately up to your doctor. RFK Jr. has a known history of doubting vaccines, so people are so hungry for the truth, and look what's happening.
Yeah, we didn't doubt one vaccine, right? And they totally fabricated stuff.
So welcome someone who doubts.
So the next, the public really wants more critical people to look through this stuff and don't blindly poison people.
Yeah.
So it's what happens when you misuse something that you had authoritative trust on one side and you abused it. So then the pendulum swings to the other side, and we have to have someone who's going to be like, let's question this stuff first before I just tell
What's
people.
worse? Somebody makes you doubt and something bad happens, or somebody tells you something that sounds certain, but then something bad happens.
Yeah.
Because they were wrong.
Yeah. And that's what the public has to be concerned with is panic. So a meteor's coming towards the earth, right? Mm-hmm. Do I tell people so that they can make right with things and try to survive on their own? Or do I want to not cause mass panic and just tell people everything's fine, whatever? You would know that the person who just is trying to save the panic, that what would happen when people are running through the stores, trampling each other, what's the right thing to do? Every time, be freaking truthful.
Yeah.
Period.
And RFK has said, in my opinion, I think this vaccine is safe and necessary. In my opinion, I think this vaccine is safe and necessary. But I do not trust this one and this one. So he has never said, don't take anything, question it all, hesitate, put yourself in. No, he has directly stated the ones that he thinks are good. He has directly stated, I am not anti-vax. My own children are vaccinated. But he shines a light on others that he's weary of and lets you make the decision. I don't get how that's a bad thing.
Because it is the new religion. Questioning the science is the religion of our day. And if you question it, then people are going to doubt it. They're going to lose faith in it, and they're not going to blindly follow it. You get a more intelligent race of humans, right? When you are critical of things rather than blindly following people that misuse their authority and power. That's the simplest way that I can state it.
Yep. She says your doctor needs guidelines in order to help you. So what happens when you take away those guidelines because RFK says it's not my job? And we have a 5-minute warning. What guidelines?
So, all right. So the institutions are meant to inform doctors by putting bulletins and data in front of them so that then the doctor can take the data. That the doctors aren't going to say, oh, he says don't take the vaccine. I guess I'm not going to do the vaccine. These are trained professionals who take data and decide what's right for their patients.
That's where the degree came from. Right. If it were just, we just do whatever the CDC and whatever tells us, then I could go be a doctor.
Exactly. So that is not how, if that's how medicine works right now, we're in really bad shape. I know my doctor has told me many times, we've had great conversations about this. He will give me information that goes contrary to guidelines because he feels that they didn't have a high resolution, image of what people are dealing with under certain circumstances. Yeah. So he gave me better results, and he defied what the CDC said.
I had a doctor even tell me back when COVID was first happening and people were getting the vaccines, and I talked to a kid pediatrician at the time before another one, and I said, "What do you do?" And she's like, "Well, you know what? Here's what they're saying. It's pretty new. I'm not sure what to tell you. My kids got it because they are autoimmune compromised, but I haven't gotten it yet. I'm waiting for more data. That's where I stand." And I'm like, Okay. So that says to me, we don't know a whole lot.
That's your interface right there.
Yeah.
That with the doctor who can give you real information, isn't being corrupted or paid into or forced to tell you what the CDC said. They're making their own judgments. That's a good.
Yep. And I had a
physician.
second doctor say, I think it's a good thing. I think you should get it. I think it's safe, but I'm not giving it because I don't want to be accused of financially benefiting from it. I trust both of those people. Both of them look at data they were presented with and made their own decision based off of their medical degree and their experience. So why can't RFK Jr. just say, here's all the information, your doctor can make their own recommendations?
Blasphemy.
Blasphemy.
That's RFK. All right. Thanks for joining us today, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow. Have a good one. See you on Friday.